Ever feel like your life is just a series of 10 more minutes that slowly add up to years of bitter regret? The truth is, the hard work you've been doing might actually be the very thing keeping you trapped. You've tried every planner, every hack, yet that hollow feeling of being behind still haunts you. But what if the masterpiece of your destiny isn't found in more effort, but in claiming a single secret hour the world has taught you to ignore? Today, we follow Thomas, a man whose dreams were rotting until he discovered a secret weapon, a way to manufacture a 13th month of life inside a single year. But there is a hidden cost to this discovery, a weight that Thomas had to drop before he could even begin to walk this path. Something most people carry until their dying day without realizing it. You must stay until the end, because the math of success we're about to reveal is a rare knowledge. This isn't just a story, it's a practical map to your liberation from the grey noise of failure. However, before I show you how Thomas won his life back, you need to understand the invisible anchor that was actually holding him down, and it's likely the same thing paralyzing you right now. To understand the solution, we first have to witness the moment he almost lost it all to the most dangerous habit in existence. Thomas's hand fumbles across the cluttered nightstand, finally slamming the snooze button for the 4th time. A shaft of midday sun pierces through the grime, illuminating a graveyard of half-finished canvases, ghosts of ideas that never made it. It's already 10:30, and the silence of the room feels like a heavy blanket weighing down his spirit. You know that hollow feeling in your gut, don't you? That nagging sense that you're just drifting. Thomas tells himself he'll get around to it tonight when the vibe is right. But the night only brings more scrolling and an exhaustion that sleep can't fix. Every 10-minute delay is another nail in the coffin of the masterpiece he promised himself he'd paint. But here is what Thomas didn't realize yet. He wasn't just tired from lack of sleep, he was exhausted from carrying invisible stone, obligations and emotional weights that were never his to bear. He mistook this heavy procrastination for a creative's curse. In a moment, I will reveal the specific logic error in Thomas's brain that made his brush feel like it weighed 100 pounds. An error that most people make every single morning without even knowing it. He was a man out of time, looking at the dust on his ease, unaware that his liberation would require more than just an alarm clock. A masterpiece isn't born in the frantic rush of a Tuesday afternoon or under the heavy pressure of a deadline. It is sketched in that sacred blue silence of the dawn when the rest of the world is still fast asleep. Most folks think success is a stroke of luck, like hitting a random lottery ticket. But the truth is much simpler. Your destiny is hidden in the hour you claim, before the sun even rises. The morning is the only time the soul can truly hear itself speak without the static of the day's demands. When you win this first hour, you've already won the war against the chaos. But there's a catch. You cannot claim this supernatural focus if your mind is still cluttered with the emotional debris of yesterday's people and problem. Thomas was looking for a blueprint, but his hands were too full of stones that didn't belong to him to even hold a compass. Think of the dawn as your private laboratory, a territory that hasn't been colonized by emails or notifications. It is a secret weapon that high performers use to stay 3 steps ahead. However, even with the perfect morning routine, Thomas was about to hit a wall that no alarm clock could fix, a spiritual blockage that acts like a leak in your creative bucket. I'll show you exactly what that leak and how it's draining your potential in just a moment. But first, you need to see the true cost of Thomas's empty canvas. Thomas is the classic, struggling artist, possessing a mountain of raw talent, but zero structural integrity to support it. His studio, a tiny room smelling of turpentine and cheap ramen, reflects his bank account, a graveyard of zero. It's that agonizing feeling of being a vessel full of fine wine, yet you're stuck with a cork you just can't seem to pull. By the time he drags himself home from a soul-crushing retail job, his creative fire is just a pile of damp ash. He is trapped in a cycle where he is too tired to paint and too stressed to sleep. But why is he truly so exhausted? It's because Thomas is trying to build his future while still carrying the stones of past failure and the expectations of everyone who ever doubted it. He's running a high-performance engine in a rusted-out chassis that is buckling under a weight that isn't even his. Consistency beats brilliance every time, but consistency is impossible when your energy is being siphoned off by grey noise and unopened bill. In a few minutes, I'm going to reveal the internal saboteur that was actually stealing Thomas's fuel, a specific psychological burden that you likely have in your backpack right now. If you don't drop it, no amount of caffeine or morning sun will save you. But first, Thomas is about to hit the absolute bottom, where the world finally demands a debt he cannot pay. The mail slot clatters, dropping a stiff white envelope onto the dusty floor. Thomas tears it open, hoping for a lifeline, but the words, "We regret to inform you," sting like cold salt. Beside it lies a bright red notice to vacate, the final blow to his fragile sanctuary. The external world has finally caught up to his internal chaos, and the walls are closing in fast. It's a bitter pill to swallow, realizing that waiting for the muse was just a fancy way of planning to fail. Inspiration is a fair-weather friend who rarely shows up when the rent is due. Thomas realizes he needs a miracle, but he's starting to suspect he's the one who has to build it. But here is the truth that hurt more than the eviction. Thomas was losing his home because he had turned his soul into a warehouse for other people's problems. He had no room for his own success because he was too busy storing the stones of everyone else's expectations. He was spending 90% of his energy on wishing and 0% on the mechanics of growth. In the moment, Thomas will encounter a man who possesses a piece that seems humanly impossible. But before he can learn the master's secret, he'll have to face a terrifying question. What if the thing you're most afraid to let go of is the very thing keeping you poor? I'll show you how to identify that deadly weight shortly. Thomas finds himself at the doorstep of a secluded villa where Master Julian, a legend who exudes a calm that's almost unnerving, resides. While the city is still snoring, a soft golden glow spills from Julian's window. He's sitting in total silence, appearing like a statue carved out of the early morning. "You're late, Thomas," Julian says at 5:30 a.m., his voice cutting through the air like a bell. His studio doesn't smell of rot, but of fresh cedar and expensive pigments. There isn't a single brushstroke on the easel yet, only an atmosphere of preparation. Julian whispers, "Most folks spend their lives waiting for the light to hit their canvas. I wake up so that I can become the light." He explains that talent is just a seed, but it needs a specific territory to grow. And the dawn is the only unclaimed territory left for the soul. But then Julian looks Thomas in the eye and sees the invisible exhaustion. He realizes Thomas is trying to become the light while still dragging a mountain of shadows behind it. The stones of 1,000 yeses that should have been no's. The master knows that you cannot conquer the dawn if you are still a slave to the day's demands. In a moment, Julian will reveal the exact artistic math that creates a 13-month year. But first, he's going to share a secret about why most people fail this journey within the first 48 hours. It has nothing to do with sleep and everything to do with a leak in your emotional boundaries. Julian picks up a piece of chalk, the sound sharp and rhythmic against the slate. "Thomas, look at the math," he says, sketching a bold number 5. "If you grab the hours between 5 and 8 a.m., you're pocketing 3 full hours of pure, undistracted gold. That's 21 hours a week, basically a whole extra day of life while the rest of the world is still dreaming. Over a year, that adds up to more than 1,000 hours of high-intensity focus. That is 45 extra days of creation every single year, Thomas. A literal 13th month hidden in plain sight. While your peers are still rubbing their eyes at 9, you've already lived a full day's worth of your true purpose." But Julian's voice drops an octave. "The math only works if you don't spend those bonus hours processing other people's drama. If you wake up at 5 a.m., but your mind is still heavy with the stones of yesterday's guilt, you aren't gaining a 13th month. You're just extending your sentence in a prison of exhaustion." Thomas realized that his time wasn't the only thing being stolen. His mental energy was being siphoned by Fardo he never agreed to carry. In a moment, I will show you the exact system of the holy hour that Thomas used to reclaim his power. But there is one specific rule, the rule of the empty hand, that you must follow, or this math will fail you. Julian lays out the blueprint. The first 30 minutes are a visual prayer to clear the mental canvas. Rule number 1. No checking the phone. That's just letting other people's chaos dictate the terms of your morning. Thomas learns to sit in the stillness, flushing out the toxins of debt and doubt that usually cloud his vision. It's like rebooting a slow computer. You've got to clear the cache before you can run the heavy-duty program. Then comes the meat of the session. 90 minutes of pure, unadulterated focus on the holy hour fundament. While the world hits snooze, Thomas is grinding away at anatomy and color theory with surgical precision. But Thomas soon discovers a secret flaw in his discipline. It's impossible to clear the cache of your mind if you are still harboring the emotional viruses of people who drain your energy. He realized that the digital fast wasn't enough. He needed an emotional fast, a way to put down the heavy stones of other people's expectations that he had been carrying for years. He implements the movement ritual to spark his brain and the one-stroke promise to ensure progress, even when the muse is a ghost. This system turns a vague dream into a repeatable process, but as Thomas prepares to start his first solo week, he's about to face the demon of the third day, a psychological trap that ruins 99% of. I'll reveal what this trap is and how to bypass it in a moment. But first, you must understand the boundary paradox that Thomas had to solve before his first brushstroke even hit the canvas. Monday morning hits like a freight train, and the 5 a.m. alarm sounds more like a siren than a wake-up call. Thomas shivers in his drafty studio, his breath visible in the air, while the demon of doubt whispers sweet lies. His body screams for the warm sanctuary of his old 10 a.m. sleep-in, calling this whole experiment a fool's errand. It's that raw, agonizing resistance we all feel when trying to break the chains of a habit that's kept us small. By the second day, every brushstroke feels like pushing a boulder up a muddy hill. You've likely been there, staring at a screen, wondering why you even bother when progress feels invisible. This is the Valley of Shadow, where most dreamers quit and retreat back to their blankets. But Thomas finally realized his biggest obstacle wasn't the coal or the sleep. It was the internal resistance, born from the stones he still refused to drop. He was trying to climb a mountain of discipline, while his backpack was still stuffed with other people's guilt. On day 8, something shifts. He realizes that inspiration is a guest that only arrives when the house is clean. But how do you clean the house of your soul when others keep dumping their trash in your hallway? In a moment, I will show you how Thomas achieved the harvest of results that changed his life. But first, you need to understand the invisible threshold he crossed, the exact moment he chose to stop being a martyr for others and start being a master of himself. 6 months have passed, and the air in the gallery is thick with the scent of expensive perfume and fresh varnish. Thomas stands in a tailored suit, a world away from the paint-splattered rags of his old, drafty studio. Every canvas on the wall bears a small red dot, the international symbol for soul. He isn't that tired, frantic guy anymore. He exudes a quiet, steady confidence that commands the room. Those extra 45 days he reclaimed from the dawn have compounded into a skill level that looks like pure magic. While his peers were still dreaming, he was putting in the reps, mastering the light and the subtle textures of the human soul. He paid off every cent of his debt, not with luck, but with the hard currency of discipline earned at 5 a.m. sharp. It's a beautiful thing when the world finally pays you what you're worth because you actually valued your own time first. But the real masterpiece wasn't on the wall. It was the fact that Thomas no longer felt the hollow ache of unmet potential. He had finally learned that abundance only flows when you stop being a vessel for other people's burden. He traded gray noise for a life that truly belonged to him. However, Thomas knew this success was fragile unless he shared the ultimate secret of how to keep this freedom without burning out. In a moment, I will show you how to join this movement and claim your own extra month. But first, you need to see the covenant that prevents you from ever picking up those heavy stones again. Thomas looks out over the crowd, but his mind is already drifting back to the crisp blue quiet of tomorrow's 5 a.m. He knows that talent is just a gift, but the discipline to use it is a choice you make every single day. The world is desperately waiting for your unique masterpiece, but it sure isn't going to find it while you're still hiding in bed. It's time to stop being a passenger in your own story and start being the one who actually holds the brush. Think about the creators who are already joining this move, reclaiming those 45 extra days of pure growth. Whether you're building a software empire or mastering a craft, the dawn is your ultimate unfair advantage. But I must be honest with you, many will try to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow and fail, not because they are lazy, but because they are still trying to run toward their future while being tethered to the stones of their past. You cannot sign a new contract with your destiny while you are still honoring the old contracts of guilt and sacrifice for people who don't value you. We are building a covenant of high performers who understand that the early bird doesn't just get the worm, the early bird gets the territory and the peace to design a life. Are you truly ready to drop the weight and join us? Because the secret to Thomas's consistency wasn't a stronger alarm clock. It was a specific manual for letting go of everything that wasn't his. In a moment, I will reveal exactly how you can access this same manual and finally break the creative's curse once and for all. Thomas found his masterpiece in the quiet of 5 a.m., but your canvas is still waiting for its first real stroke of discipline. I'm challenging you to a 90-day covenant with the dawn, a commitment to claim that extra month of life for your own destiny. Don't let this be just another video you watch while your potential slowly rots in the stagnant safety of your blankets. Transformation is not a complex theory. It's a hard decision that starts before the rest of the world has even opened its eyes. But remember the lesson of the master. You cannot become the light if you are still a warehouse for other people's shadow. Many of the stories you hear here aren't just stories. They reflect the invisible weight you may be carrying every day, the silent exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. If you're tired of holding pain, responsibility, and guilt that were never yours, you are ready to put them down, to guide you through this process of emotional liberation. I created an ebook called The Weight of Stones That Are Not Yours. This is the manual for those who want to let go of the gray noise, set immovable boundaries, and finally live with the lightness that Thomas discovered. When you grab your copy today, I'm also including 2 vital bonuses: learning to let go and when saying no is an act of self-love. Because the 5 a.m. math only works when your soul is free to fly. Stop negotiating with your alarm clock and start honoring the greatness within you. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. I'll see you at 5 a.m. because your destiny won't wait and neither should you.